Keek on the mic, keek on the mic, keek on the mic, keek on the mic. People, this the intro. Sacramento, California, born and raised. And Antelope is where I spend most of my days. Talk bad about my team, you must be a clown. This is Keek on the mic, so you know you better bear down. Bear down.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. Like always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you also follow me on all my social media platforms to stay connected with all Keek on the Mic news. All right, Bears fans, I am back and ready to do another 2023 Chicago Bears mock offseason. I just want to thank you guys for all the love and support that you guys showed me on the first Chicago Bears mock offseason I posted. The views went crazy, so I am back doing another Chicago Bears mock offseason, and we're going to do a 2.0 version to this offseason, and I'm excited to be back and doing this. Before I continue with today's episode, I just want to apologize for the word obviously. There was a lot of listeners that tuned into the Chicago Bears mock offseason 1.0, and they were a little bit, I wouldn't say frustrated, but they called me out a lot for using the word obviously too much. I apologize. I say the word obviously subconsciously. I will try my best in this video not to say the word obviously too much. But like I said, I am back doing another 2023 Chicago Bears mock offseason 2.0. And like always, as I'm going through the Chicago Bears mock offseason, feel free to comment down below and tell me how you think I am doing with my mock offseason, and give me your input on what you would do if you were doing the Chicago Bears mock offseason and you were in charge or in Ryan Poles' shoes. So here we go. The starting cap, and I kind of did a little bit more research. I know in my first Chicago Bears mock offseason, I said the Bears will have $124 million, but according to Spot Track, the Bears will have $115 million, and that includes the $9 million that's rolling over from the 2022 salary cap. So starting off with the cuts are still the same as the first video in my first Chicago Bears mock offseason. I would be cutting Al-Quadin Muhammad and saving $4 million, and also cutting Cody Whitehair and saving $10 million as long as he is cut post June 1st. When you look at Al-Quadin Muhammad, the production just has not been there. He only got 1 sack last season. The pressure just wasn't there. Every time you would turn on a Chicago Bears game, you would wonder, where is Al-Quadin Muhammad? It was so disappointing to watch him, especially considering that he came from the Indianapolis Colts with Matt Eberflus. So you would think that he would be more productive. Prior to signing him to that 2-year, $8 million deal, he had a career high year with the Colts where he had 6 sacks and he just looked pretty good. So there was high hopes for Al-Quadin Muhammad. Things didn't pan out. So that would instantly be my first cut. The Bears need to get better on the edge. So saving $4 million and cutting a guy that wasn't productive at all seems like a no-brainer here for the Chicago Bears. When you look at Cody Whitehair, saving $10 million is a big chunk of change, especially when you have a lot of holes to fill. Like I mentioned in the first video, Cody Whitehair is 31 years old. He dealt with some injuries this season. He only played 12 games. And sometimes Cody Whitehair's play can be a little bit inconsistent. And I guarantee you that there is possibly an upgrade out there at the guard position for the Chicago Bears. And the Bears need a lot of help in the trenches. When you look at both Al-Quadin Muhammad and Cody Whitehair, they both play in the trenches. And those are 2 areas for this Bears football team that needs to get a whole lot better. So I decided to cut Al-Quadin Muhammad and Cody Whitehair and saving a total of $14 million. So after those 2 cuts, the Bears will be set at $129 million, moving on to the Chicago Bears re-signing. So re-signing our own free agents. I have the Chicago Bears re-signing fullback Corey Blasingame to a 1-year, $1.08 million deal. Wide receiver N'Keal Harry to a 1-year deal. D-tackle Armon Watts to a 1-year deal. Linebacker Matthew Adams to a 1-year deal. Linebacker Nicholas Marl, and originally in the first video, I had Nicholas Marl signed to a 2-year, $10 million deal. I changed it to this video to a 1-year, $1.2 million deal. He had a decent season, but I would like to see a little bit more production on his end. Re-signing safety DeAndre Houston Carson to a 1-year, $1.2 million deal. long snapper Patrick Scales to a 1-year, $1.2 million deal. Linebacker Joe Thomas to a 1-year deal. Joe Thomas had a really good season filling in for a very thin linebacker room, and is also a pretty good special teamer as well, so it'll be good to get him back. Cornerback Josh Blackwell to an ERFA deal for $750,000. Much like Joe Thomas, Josh Blackwell filled in for and played some valuable reps as a backup corner for a very thin cornerback room here in Chicago, and was also one of the special teams aces. So getting Joe Thomas and Josh Blackwell back would be pivotal for the Chicago Bears. And I'm still re-signing running back David Montgomery to a 3-year, $21 million deal, which would be $7 million per year. In the first Chicago Bears mock offseason, I was giving David Montgomery $8 million per year. I lowered that down a little bit, and I'm just going to give him $21 million a year. And to me, personally, that should be enough to keep David Montgomery around. And when I look at David Montgomery before I move on, David Montgomery has been productive, and that's all I really have to say about that. I think it would be a huge loss to lose David Montgomery in free agency. I know a lot of people are very high on guys like Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs, but I feel like when you look at David Montgomery, you can get him for cheaper than what you'd have to pay for Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs. And at times, David Montgomery can be just as productive. And if Ryan Poles does the right things this offseason, like building the offensive line, David Montgomery should have an absolutely monster year. So I'm going to take my chances and re-sign David Montgomery. It's been productive. There's no reason to get rid of a guy like David Montgomery. So after the re-signings, the cap space for the Chicago Bears would sit at $112 million. And something that I'm doing different in this Chicago Bears mock offseason, I am actually going to be offering some extensions. That is something that a lot of the listeners were asking, saying, well, hey, Keek, how about the extensions for guys like Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, Jalen Johnson? And I totally spaced on that in the first Chicago Bears mock offseason. So in this video, I'm going to be offering some extensions. The first extension that I would offer is to tight end Cole Kmet, and I would offer him a 4-year, $34.5 million deal, which would be about $8.6 million per year. And when you look at Cole Kmet, he really elevated his game this season and proved that he can be a reliable target for Justin Fields. Kmet caught 50 passes for 544 yards and 7 touchdowns this season. And when you look at Cole Kmet, he really had some early criticism from a lot of Bears fans. I'm pretty sure I came on here once or twice and said, you know what, he really has to elevate his game this season. And he answered a lot of those questions and proved that he could be a long-term answer at tight end for the Chicago Bears. And to me personally, this is a much deserved extension for Cole Kmet. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't add a tight end to pair with Cole Kmet, but I'm saying that Cole Kmet has done enough to prove that he can be a long-term option at tight end, a guy that Justin Fields can trust, a reliable option that Justin Fields can trust. I think this is a deal that Ryan Poles should prioritize first out of anyone that is due for extension. And in my mock offseason, I rewarded Cole Kmet with an extension. The next guy I would offer extension to is wide receiver Darnell Mooney, giving him a 4-year, $55 million deal, which is $13.75 million per year. And I want to get your guys' opinion on this. Do you think that is too much for Darnell Mooney? I value him at around $12 to $14 million a year. So I feel like $13.75 million a year will be fair value. Much like Cole Kmet, Mooney has been really good for the Chicago Bears ever since he was drafted back in 2020. And much like Cole Kmet, has proved he can be a reliable target for Justin Fields. It was an absolute bummer that he got injured with that ankle injury during the New York Jets game. And the funny thing is, even though we lost Darnell Mooney in that Jets game, which was, I think there was maybe 7 games left to play, he still ended up being one of the leading receivers for the Chicago Bears. So just put that into perspective. But Darnell Mooney has proved everything. I still want to see the Chicago Bears add another receiver because I feel personally that Darnell Mooney would fit perfectly in the slot and he can end up being one of the better slots in the NFL. But when you look at guys like Cole Kmet, Darnell Mooney, Justin Fields, I am so excited to see these 3 guys get to work and be that dominant force in the NFL for years to come. So I feel like Darnell Mooney should also be prioritized for extension this offseason for the Chicago Bears. And I know a lot of people may ask me about Jalen Johnson. I am choosing not to give Jalen Johnson an extension as of now. I still want to see one more season. To me personally, I still think that Jalen Johnson does have some durability issues. He's been injured quite a bit. And also, I just want to see the ball production kind of elevate a little bit next season. I'm not saying that Jalen Johnson's not good. He is that lockdown corner. People don't look his way. So that is also a good reason why his ball production is not there. But when the ball does come his way and he has a chance to make a play, I want to see him make a play, right? But when you look at durability, I want to see Jalen Johnson play a little bit more. But I can definitely see Ryan Poles offering Jalen Johnson an extension as well, along with Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet. My question to you guys is, who would you guys want to extend? Jalen Johnson, Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet? Who would you prioritize this offseason to offer that extension to remain in Chicago? Let me know down below in the comment section. After the cap extensions, the cap space would be at $89 million, and that would give us plenty of ammo looking into free agency. And something that I didn't really consider the first time around when I did my first Chicago Bears mock offseason. Ryan Poles wants to be sound in free agency. What that means is just because he has that money to spend doesn't mean he wants to go absolutely crazy. So I tried my best to be more sound in this mock offseason for the Chicago Bears. Be more sound in the realization that we shouldn't just go out there and spend all our money just because we have it. We want to make sure we're bringing in guys that can come in and just produce and contribute right away to make the Chicago Bears team better. Trust me, in these mock off seasons, it's really easy just to go absolutely nuts and add all these players. But at the end of the day, I understand that we are not going to sign all these players. And even some of the players I have on my list in this video, just because I say it doesn't mean they're actually going to make it out with their current team. Some of these guys may get franchise tags. Some of these guys may get re-signed. So I think we have to also understand that. But when we look at what Ryan Poles wants to do, we have to be realistic to the fact that he wants to be sound. He may not sign a lot of big names. He may sign upper tier free agents that still can come out and help. But I don't think he's going to go out and sign Orlando Brown or Deron Payne and Ngogwe all in one offseason. He could, but I just don't really see it happening at this point in time, especially when you hear him discuss his plans for free agency. So for my video, the first guy I'm targeting, and I know the first video, there's a lot of Bears fans saying, well, Keek, you gave all your money to Orlando Brown Jr. After really thinking about it, I'm like, you know what? $24.5 million for a guy that did struggle last season. I still feel like he would be an amazing option. But I don't want to throw all my money to Orlando Brown Jr. Instead, I am banking on this guy getting out of Washington. I signed defensive tackle Deron Payne to a 4-year, $76 million deal. And this is a lot of Chicago Bears fans' favorite, and that would be $19 million a year. I think $19 million a year for a guy like that would be more worth it than giving $24.5 million to Orlando Brown Jr. So I'm just trying to be sound and more realistic to the fact. I would be absolutely stoked to land Deron Payne and get him here to Chicago. He's 25 years old, 6'2", 320 pounds, and the Bears desperately need to add to the trenches, both on the defensive line and the offensive line. Outside of Justin Jones at times, the D-line was absolutely putrid. When you look at the defensive stats this season, they were 29th against the run, only sacked the quarterback 20 times, which was last in the NFL, and just were flat out bad. And I know that a lot of Bears fans can agree with me when I say this. There was a lot of times where I wanted to punch the TV because it would be like 3rd and 15 and they would be giving up first downs by other teams just handing off the football. The defensive line was absolutely bad. It was an absolute weak point for the Chicago Bears football team this year. So the Bears need desperate upgrades on this defensive line, and that's where a guy like Deron Payne comes in. When you think about Deron Payne, he would be an instant upgrade in presence for this Bears defensive line. Payne was an absolute force for the Commanders ever since joining them back in 2018. Over his 5-year career with the Washington Commanders, he has 291 tackles, 40 tackles for loss, 4 forced fumbles, and 26 sacks. This season, he showed he was dominant as a pass rusher as well. His main strength is in run defense, which is obviously a bonus for the Chicago Bears because they were terrible against the run. But we also need to be able to create that interior pressure. We all understand that Matt Eberflus's scheme needs that defensive line presence, and that's where Deron Payne comes in. It's perfect. He's young, he's durable, he knows how to get to the passer, he knows how to stop the run. It would be the most beautiful thing if we were able to land a guy like Deron Payne. The Chicago Bears need Deron Payne badly. So if Washington is dumb enough to allow this guy to escape the free agency, I can bet all the money in the world that Ryan Poles will be all over Deron Payne and making sure he is a Chicago Bear at the end of the day. The second guy on my list is defensive end Draymond Jones. I want to sign him to a 3-year, $21.8 million deal, which would be $7.2 million per year. I talked a little bit about Draymond Jones as he was also in my first Chicago Bears mock offseason. I absolutely love this guy. He's 26 years old, 6'3", 281 pounds, and this is the guy that I would love to have on the Chicago Bears. And can you imagine Draymond Jones and Deron Payne on the same defensive line? And you still have Justin Jones. I'm not saying Justin Jones was bad, but having those three guys would be absolutely beautiful, and it would be an instant upgrade to our defensive line. Jones has proved time and time again that he could be a consistent threat as an interior passer, which the Bears desperately need. We also need edge presence as well, which is coming later, but we also need to focus on the interior defensive line as well. When you look at the previous 3 seasons for Draymond Jones, he has not 16 and a half sacks. So he has been a nightmare for opposing offense for the last 3 seasons and has proved to be a consistent passer. And that's what the Bears weren't this year. Like I mentioned, they only had 20 sacks, which was last in the NFL. So the Bears desperately need to upgrade on the defensive line, and adding the guy like Deron Payne, adding a guy like Draymond Jones would certainly go a long way in fixing some of those issues. The next guy I want to sign is right tackle Jawaan Taylor to a 3-year, $17.5 million deal, which is $5.8 million per year. Once again, it's another young guy, 25 years old, 6'5", 330 pounds. And much like the defensive line, we have to build in the trenches. Defensive line, offensive line. I built the defensive line already, and now it's time to build the offensive line. The Bears need to also upgrade on offensive line badly. The Bears offensive line was really good in terms of run blocking, but pass protection was a different story. When you look at the Bears O-line, they allowed 58 sacks this season, which was the most in the NFL. Justin Fields was on his back far too much, took too much punishment at times. And I know we can have a conversation about, some of those sacks were on Justin Fields as well, but I don't want to hear it. Justin Fields didn't have enough time to throw. Ryan Poles needs to get this offensive line figured out, so Justin Fields actually has some time to step in the pocket, make some decisions, right? We need offensive line badly, and pass protection has to be a key focus when you're trying to bring in new offensive linemen to add to the Chicago Bears. Jawaan Taylor would be a much needed presence on this Bears offensive line. He had a career year as a pass protector, blocking for Trevor Lawrence for the Jaguars. He only allowed pressures on 2.5% of dropbacks, which was the 3rd lowest among tackles in the NFL. Taylor would be a much needed upgrade at the right tackle position for the Bears offensive line. And a guy like Jawaan Taylor, he's 25 years old. Of course, you have Braxton Jones at left. It would be a beautiful start to making this Bears offensive line a whole lot better by adding Jawaan Taylor. My next signing for the Chicago Bears is guard Ben Powers. Sign him to a 3-year, $22.4 million deal, which is $7.4 million per year. And when you look at it, I decided to let go of Cody Whitehair in this mock offseason, and that means we need an upgrade at the guard position, and that's what Ben Powers would be for the Chicago Bears. He's 26 years old, so getting younger there. He stands at 6'4", 337 pounds. Powers, once again, much like Jawaan Taylor, was really good as a pass protector for the Ravens this season. He allowed no sacks and only 1 quarterback hit the entire year. That is exactly what the Chicago Bears need. We need to be able to give Justin Fields time. Getting the interior offensive line figured out for the Chicago Bears will go a long way to making sure Justin Fields was protected. The Bears need to keep Justin Fields upright, adding Jawaan Taylor, getting Ben Powers in here, and then eventually getting a new center, which I will bring that up here in a little bit, will go a long way in making sure Justin Fields is protected next season. Next guy on my list is linebacker Bobby Okereke. Signing him to a 3-year, $20.5 million deal. That would be for $6.8 million per year. Okereke is 26 years old, 6'1", 235 pounds. And when you look at Okereke, he proved to be a solid option and a reliable option at linebacker for the Indianapolis Colts. This season, he stepped up in a major way in the absence of Shaquille Leonard, which was out for most of the season, I believe, with a back injury, so he had to step up. He was really good against the run this season and is coming off back-to-back seasons with at least 100 tackles. This guy plays fast, he plays physical, he is all over the field. And to add to all this, he knows the Matt Eberflus defensive scheme. He would come over and fit right in. He already knows how Matt Eberflus wants to play. He'll fit right in, put him next to Jack Sanborn, put him next to Nicholas Morrow. And I think this is a guy that you can develop even more, hasn't even really reached his full potential. He's young, and like I mentioned, he knows the Eberflus team, so he would fit right in. The last guy on my list, and once again, going back to the trenches, is signing center Ethan Pocic to a 4-year, $28.8 million deal, which would be $7.2 million per year. I talked a little bit about Ethan Pocic on the last Chicago Bears mock offseason, and we all know this. We cannot go into next season with either Lucas Patrick or Sam Musfer as a starting center. I did see some of you guys' comments on my first video that I posted. I just want to let you guys know that Sam Musfer is currently a free agent, which means the Bears don't have to re-sign him. If the Chicago Bears re-sign him, that possibly means that he is just a backup, which I hope he is. But a lot of people are saying, you need to cut Sam Musfer. You need to cut Sam Musfer. Why didn't you cut Sam Musfer? The reason why I didn't cut Sam Musfer because he's already a free agent. So I'm hoping the Bears don't re-sign him. Maybe you do re-sign him just for as a backup, but I think we keep Lucas Patrick as a backup. You bring in a guy like Ethan Pocic that has been nails, especially as a run blocker, pass blocker for the Cleveland Browns this season. Got his opportunity after the J.C. Treader surprising cut that the Browns did last offseason, and he took advantage of the opportunity, and I think he cashes in with the offensive line needy team like the Chicago Bears this offseason. So after all those signing, the cap space looks like this. It stands at $35 million going into the NFL draft, which is still plenty of money, not to only sign your NFL draft picks, but to also maybe add last second signings that may pop out of nowhere, right? You never know, off the waiver claim or maybe via trade, so you still have that flexibility with $35 million left to spend. So now we are moving on to the NFL draft, which this time I kind of shook it up a little bit. I am still starting off with an NFL draft trade. I give the Indianapolis Colts the number 1 overall pick, and the Bears will receive number 4 overall, number 35 in the second round in 2023, a first and second round pick in 2024, and wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. I know there's been a lot of rumors going around, and I know I recently just posted a podcast with Benjamin Albright saying that rumor was false, that the Indianapolis Colts are not prepared to offer draft capital right now for the number 1 overall pick. But that is right now. That doesn't mean that later on in the offseason, once they get their head coach figured out, that they won't be ready, right? So you have to understand that the Indianapolis Colts are desperate need for a quarterback. They're going to have options between C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, Will Levis, right? There's going to be a bunch of options for the Colts, and they're probably going to want to trade up if they feel strongly about one of those quarterbacks. I still feel like this is the most logical trade partner for the Chicago Bears, and I feel like a trade will get done. When I look at this trade, I think this is fair compensation. The Bears will hold all the cards to this trade package, and I just feel like this is fair value. You're getting number 4 overall pick, 35 in 2023, and a first and second round pick, and wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. I would be absolutely beside myself if this actually happens, because adding a guy like Michael Pittman Jr. would make me very happy. Adding him with Darnell Mooney, adding him with Chase Claypool would give the Bears a legit trio of guys that can make plays for Justin Fields. And Ryan Poles, I think, understands that he is still in search for a number 1 wide receiver, and Michael Pittman can definitely be that number 1 wide receiver for Justin Fields. When you look at Michael Pittman Jr., he's 25 years old, stands at 6'4", 223 pounds, And like I mentioned, this is exactly what Justin Fields needs. Adding Pittman Jr. would give the Bears another quality target for Justin Fields. And this is a guy that can come into Chicago, be a number one wide receiver. Looking at Michael Pittman Jr.'s stats in 2021, Pittman Jr. caught 88 passes for 1,082 yards and 6 touchdowns, and followed that up in 2022 with 99 catches for 925 yards and 4 touchdowns. And I want you guys to put this in perspective, Bears fans. He did all of this with Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, and Sam Ehlinger throwing to him. So all that quarterback chaos, the quarterback carousel that the Colts were going through, he still was productive. So just imagine bringing Michael Pittman here to Chicago. Once we build the offensive line, right, with Justin Fields, a guy that can make plays with his legs and create time and give Michael Pittman time to get open, this would be a match made in heaven to me, and I would definitely love this move for the Chicago Bears. To add to all of this, the other good part about adding Pittman Jr., he would only cost $1.7 million against the cap in 2023, since he is still on his rookie deal. The negative side is that he is on his last year of his rookie deal. So that means the Bears would have a big decision to make. They would have to sign not only Michael Pittman Jr., they would have to decide to sign Darnell Mooney if they choose to do so, and also Chase Claypool if they choose to do so. They would have to worry about signing 3 different receivers. So that is the only negative part about this deal. But all in all, I'd be very happy to add a receiver like Michael Pittman Jr. Would you guys like this trade for the Chicago Bears? Would you guys like to add a receiver like Michael Pittman Jr. for Justin Fields? Let me know down below in the comment section. So after adding a guy like Michael Pittman Jr., so after that trade, the Bears would still sit at $33 million in cap space, because like I mentioned, in the 2023 season, Michael Pittman would only cost $1.7 million against our cap space. So now we're moving on to the draft picks, and I'm not trading down anymore. I made that one big trade. I got 2 1s, 2 2s, and a solid player that can come in right away and help us, help Justin Fields and help us win right away. So I'm pleased with that. So we move down to number 4. So in round 1, pick number 4, I'm running to the podium and I'm still sticking to my guns. We select edge rusher Will Anderson Jr. out of Alabama, 6'4", 235 pounds, a guy that will come in right away and make this defense a whole lot better. We added to the interior by adding Deron Payne and Draymond Jones. Now it's time to create that edge presence. And when you look at Will Anderson, Chicago Bears desperately need. I mentioned in my cuts with Al-Quadin Muhammad, he did not generate any pressure at all. I can promise you, Bears fans, that we wouldn't have to worry about that with Will Anderson Jr. He's an absolute freak of nature. He is, to me, the best player, the best prospect in this year's NFL draft, and the Chicago Bears would be really lucky to have a guy like Will Anderson Jr. I do want to note to you guys that I understand that we may not have a chance to get Will Anderson Jr. if we trade down even to 4. The Cardinals can take him at 3. The Houston Texans can, for some reason, decide to take him at 2. In that case, I would also be fine with Jalen Carter. I do want to make that known. I just feel that the Bears have to either get Jalen Carter or Will Anderson Jr. You have to get one of the two, especially if you want to go defense. But in this case, I have the Bears selecting Will Anderson Jr., edge rusher out of Alabama. So moving on to round 2, pick 35. That is the pick that we get in the trade via the Colts. And a lot of Bears fans may question me about this, but I go another edge rusher by selecting Nolan Smith out of Georgia. The only reason why Nolan Smith is not a first-round pick, because he tore his pec last season, and to me, this is why he will drop in the NFL draft. He is 6'3", 235 pounds, so basically the same exact size as Will Anderson Jr. When you look at Nolan Smith, he is an explosive athlete with top-tier strength and speed, and because of this speed, it makes him extremely versatile and allows him to play in multiple positions. He can play on the edge, he can play D-line, he can drop back in coverage. He can do anything you want him to do, and I think that would intrigue Matt Eberflus and Alan Williams to try to get him to Chicago. And much like Will Anderson, he is small for an edge rusher, I will admit that, but he plays much bigger than his size. And when you look, size doesn't really matter because both of these guys are really fast and they both had no problem getting to the quarterback. Nolan Smith, when we're just looking at Nolan Smith, He got to the quarterback. He had 17 total pressures last season. And the thing I really love about Nolan Smith is he's very good against the run. Check this stat out, Bears fans. I had to mention this in this video. In 4 seasons, he has only missed 4 tackles. In 4 seasons, has only missed 4 tackles. So this guy is all over the place, knows how to, has a nose for the football, knows how to wrap up and make tackles. And that's something that was desperately bad. That was so bad for the Bears defense this year. They missed way too many tackles. This is the guy that doesn't miss a lot of tackles. Nolan Smith is elite, and he is just scratching the surface. And once again, I feel like he will drop because of that tore pec. And if he is there at pick number 35, a lot of Bears fans probably wouldn't consider this. They may say, hey, we need offensive linemen. But I'm building the trenches once again, and I'm getting Will Anderson Jr. and Nolan Smith. Will Anderson Jr. on one side and Nolan Smith on the other with Deron Payne and Draymond Jones. You are set for years to come. And I like the idea of that for the Chicago Bears. Moving on to my second round 2 picks, since we would now have 2 second-round picks. Pick number 53, I take wide receiver Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee. He's 6 foot, 180 pounds. And Hyatt, when you look at him, had a huge year at Tennessee, where he exploded onto the national scene and emerged as a premier deep threat in college football. When you look at him, you first see his elite speed. He has elite speed at 4.29. So this guy is absolute burner. It just sounds nice to add one more receiver with good speed. So now you have Chase Claypool, Darnell Mooney, Velus Jones, Jalen Hyatt, Michael Pittman Jr. Now your receiver room is looking a lot better than last year, and it's giving Justin Fields a whole lot of options and a whole lot of weapons to look forward to as we enter next season for the Chicago Bears. Moving on to round 3, pick 64, after Chicago Bears selecting offensive tackle DeJuan Jones out of Ohio State. He stands at 6'8", 359 pounds. And this is a guy that I feel like kind of just gets overshadowed because of Paris Johnson playing left tackle. This guy is a right tackle, but just his measurables alone gives me just the goosebumps, makes me just want to run to the podium and add this guy to the Bears offensive line. Jones was a 2-year starter at right tackle for Ohio State. And yes, I understand that we did sign Jawan Taylor to play right tackle, but I think there's no reason, if this guy's the best player on your board, to run to the podium and get this guy and bring him to Chicago. And like I mentioned, his measurables are just too good to pass up. His mass and frame makes him a good run blocker and allows him to hold up against the bull rush and pass protection. Even though he played right tackle in college, I would actually like to see him experiment a little bit at left tackle. I know that a lot of Bears fans are sold on Braxton Jones, which Braxton Jones, I still think he hasn't even reached the surface. I think he will get a whole lot better. But bringing in a guy like DeJuan Jones can push him a little bit more just to make sure he is our left tackle of the future. And I know a lot of you guys will be like, well, Keek, you're absolutely crazy. But just bring this guy in. On my board, he would be the best player on the board, and I think it would be a no-brainer pick for Ryan Poles and Chicago Bears to continue to add to the trenches. Move on to round 4, pick 96. I have the Chicago Bears selecting defensive tackle Mazi Smith out of Michigan. And this guy is a little bit of a sleeper, a guy that may rise. He may not even make it to round 4, to be quite honest with you. But how my draft board fell doing this mock offseason, he fell right to me, and I felt like this was the obvious no-brainer pick for the Chicago Bears. He stands at 6'3", 337 pounds. And when you look at Smith, he has a massive frame that allows him to shrug off chip blocks and absorb double teams, which is absolutely important. A guy in the middle that can absorb those double teams, it allows the other pass rushers to take on one-on-ones, right? And make it easier to get to the ball carrier or get to the quarterback. So he is a guy that can do the dirty work, but he's also a guy that extremely athletic as well. A guy with a high motor and a nice blend of power and quickness, and can easily play that 3 technique for the Chicago Bears as well, which is nice, and provide some secondary interior pass rush. This is a guy that, eventually maybe he can be a starter in the NFL, but this is a guy that will come in and give the Chicago Bears defense some valuable reps as a secondary option for some interior pass rush. And so when I look at this and I have this vision of adding a guy like Mazi Smith, I love the idea of having Deron Payne, Draymond Jones with Justin Jones and a guy like Mazi Smith coming in and providing rotational interior pass rush for the Chicago Bears defensive line. It sounds good in my head. I'm not sure if it sounds good to you guys, but adding Mazi Smith in the 4th round sounds good to me. So that's the pick I went with for the Chicago Bears in round 4. Moving on to round 5, and the Chicago Bears also have 2 round 5 picks as well, and also 2 6s and 1 7. But in the first pick in round 5 at pick 128, out of Chicago Bears finally adding another tight end to pair with Cole Kmet and Luke Musgrave out of Oregon State. He's 6'6", 249 pounds. And we all know by now, and I mentioned it earlier in the podcast, we all know by now that Cole Kmet is our franchise tight end. But adding someone to pair with Cole Kmet would be a logical move for Ryan Poles. And I think it would be a smart move by Ryan Poles to find another quality tight end to pair with Cole Kmet, give Justin Fields another solid option as a weapon as well. And when you look at Musgrave, he's a fluid athlete with good quickness and straight line speed. He has shown value as a catch and run threat, which is nice as well. Picking up a lot of yards after the catch was also nice. I love athletic tight ends, which I think that may be better than Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet's not really a yards after the catch guy, so that would be a good a difference, bringing in a tight end like Luke Musgrave, a guy that can catch the ball and get those yards after the catch. So that would be nice. He has soft, reliable hands and could be a huge target for Justin Fields. So once again, in my head, it sounds nice to add another tight end somewhere in the draft. I probably wouldn't do early, but I feel like round 5 would be a perfect time to add another tight end, pair him with Cole Kmet, also giving Justin Fields another weapon. Sounds good. Taking tight end Luke Musgrave out of Oregon State with round 5, pick 128. Moving on to round 5, pick 141, I have the Chicago Bears taking cornerback Corey Trice out of Purdue. I told you guys this in the first video. I have a strong feeling that Ryan Poles is not done adding to the Chicago Bears secondary. I feel like the secondary is close, but they can still possibly use one more guy to complete the room. Will you do it in the NFL draft? Will you do it in free agency? I am not sure, but I am pretty confident that Ryan Poles will continue to add to the secondary. When you look at Corey Trice, he's a big cornerback. He stands at 6'3", 215 pounds, so the measurables are really nice. He has good size. He is a strong, aggressive tackler, which I like, with a powerful core and hips to stick to the receiver downfield. His speed is not, he's not fast, but he has decent speed, and his length allows him to cover effectively downfield. This is a guy that you're definitely going to come in. He'll probably play special teams, start out. A guy that you can develop, which is what I love about what Eberflus is doing here in Chicago. Him and Ryan Poles like drafting talent in the NFL draft, building through the draft, and developing these guys the right way, bringing them in. And this is a guy that can be developed. Corey Trice out of Purdue. If you develop him the right way, could be something special in the NFL. Moving on to round 6, pick 160 out of the Chicago Bears, selecting safety Mark Perry out of TCU. He stands at 6 foot, 215 pounds. This is a guy that is decent in coverage, decent speed, nicely built, athletic, a guy that's all around the football. And at this point, you were just taking best player available. Do we need a safety? No, but Mark Perry can come in and play valuable reps as a special teamer as well. And I know it's up. I'm not sure what they're going to do with Eddie Jackson, so that can be a big question this offseason for the Chicago Bears. So maybe adding a safety is a smart move, but I wouldn't expect us to take a safety high. But in round 6, this was the best player available on my board, so I took safety Mark Perry out of TCU. With my second round 6 pick 184, I have the Chicago Bears taking another defensive tackle in Akeem Mesidor out of Miami. He is 6'2", 272 pounds. And this is another guy with good quickness as a pass rusher with a high motor, and I like that because that's what Matt Eberflus likes. He's an effort-based guy, and this is a guy that will give Eberflus all the effort in the world. He possesses a strong hands that allows him to shed blockers and shows good instincts with the ability to quickly locate the ball. This is what the Chicago Bears need. I understand that we have Deron Payne. I understand we got Draymond Jones in this Chicago Bears mock offseason. But the Bears also need good depth. They need guys to come in and be able to contribute as well. And you never know, injuries happen as well. So you get guys like this, a guy that's going to have a high motor, the guy that's going to bring all the effort in the world, a guy that can contribute right away for the Chicago Bears defense. I really like Akeem Mesidor out of Miami. With my last pick, round 7, pick 192 out of the Chicago Bears, taking linebacker Mohamed Diabate out of Utah. He's 6'3", 215 pounds. He was also my round 7 pick in my first Chicago Bears mock offseason. Really like this guy. He's athletic, sideline to sideline guy, always around the ball, making plays for Utah. He's all over the tape. This is another guy that's effort-based guy, a guy that I can really see Matt Eberflus liking. If he's there in round 7, he would be the best player on my board. The Bears are still in search of adding as many linebackers as possible. This is also a guy that can come in and contribute on special teams, which is equally as important. But this is a guy that I would really like the Chicago Bears to consider, bring him in, develop him the right way. Hopefully he can turn into something special for this Chicago Bears defense. So looking at my 2023 NFL draft results, I had it like this, and I'll put it on the board as well. In round 1, Will Anderson Jr. Round 2, Nolan Smith and Jalen Hyatt. Round 3, offensive tackle DeJuan Jones. Round 4, defensive tackle Mozzie Smith. In round 5, tight end Luke Musgrave and cornerback Corey Trice. In round 6, safety Mark Perry and D tackle Akeem Mesidor. In round 7, linebacker Muhammad Diabate. And also acquired a 2024 first and 2024 second round pick via Colts and wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. I am proud of this draft haul. I feel like these are players that can come in and contribute right away, whether it's on the defense side of the ball, offense side of the ball, special teams. Guys can come in and contribute right away. And then also we got a nice haul of picks, having next year's first and second round pick via the Colts, and a guy in wide receiver Michael Pittman that can come in and hopefully be a true number one, or at least I'm confident that he could be a true number one for Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears offense. So Bears fans, that is my Chicago Bears mock offseason 2.0. The first thing I want to ask you guys, how do you guys think I did? Let me know down below in the comment section. And if you guys wear Ryan Poles shoes this offseason, what would you do to get this rebuild started and hopefully make the Chicago Bears a whole lot better after this offseason? Like we all know, Ryan Poles has a whole lot of money to spend, has the number 1 overall pick, so it should be an absolutely fun offseason to be a Bears fan. So like always, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content all offseason long. I will be here all offseason long posting content, making sure you guys are up to date on all the Chicago Bears news. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms, and make sure you share this episode of Kick on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, back for all new Bears podcast right here on Kick on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic.